Good evening, guys, and welcome back to the classroom with Architect Mark. So, what we want to do today is to talk about something that is related to architecture and how architects communicate. And oftentimes, it's not just with drawings, sometimes it's with uh, nice and fancy images, and other times, it's by using photos. Now, this here's a camera, and in when you're using rendering software, there are often camera controls on it, which, if you know uh, what they mean, they basically help you create more effects or niceness in your outputs. So let's go to the classroom and learn about some concepts surrounding the camera. Okay, turn on our timer and onto the blue board. Okay, so a camera. When a camera takes a photo, it's basically called an exposure. Why? Because in olden times, there's film. Actually, there's still film now, if you want to be really strict about it. And then these film are exposed to light. And then when that happens, film plus light, draw a little sun here. This creates an exposure and is also equivalent to a photograph. So here, this is the semi-universal picture for a photograph right now, or logo. Okay, so there's something called the exposure triangle. And it's a little bit tricky for most because okay. It's tricky because the numbers that you see here uh, change in value but mean different thing. So, but means differently with the change. So what do we have? We have the uh, ISO or ASA. Basically, it is film sensitivity. And then we have the f-stop, or the aperture. This talks about how how big the opening will be when you activate the exposure or open up the curtain to let light into your camera. And then we have shutter speed. Which is the rate at which the curtain opens and then closes. So this is the speed, well, rate of, or scratch that, duration of the opening. Right. So ISO comes in the form of numbers in the hundreds and thousands. So there's ISO 100, 200, so on and so forth, 1600, 3200, and then so on and so forth until, let's just say, 32,000. because there are uh, more higher numbers in here. But when the ISO value increases, that means the film is more sensitive to light and it becomes brighter. So 100 is dark, 3200 is light. So ISO, higher number, be brighter. F-stop, on the other hand, comes in the form of integers, they call it? Well, numbers with with a decimal place after it sometimes. So there's 0.9, 1, 1.2, 1.4, and then 4.0, then 16, 22. So there are these. In f-stop, the lower number is brighter. Lower, brighter. Shutter speed is a measurement of time. And it's basically a fraction. Like you can have a shutter speed of 160, which means 60th of a second, can be 1 over 1,000, or it can be 2. So this is a measurement of time. And the longer it is, because this is a bigger time, 2 seconds, bigger, is brighter. So at any point in time that you're going to do an exposure, all of these are in play. And you kind of need to mix them together so that you come up with a properly exposed output. Of course, brightness is just one part of the equation. Because, for example, here in ISO, going back to ISO, if your film is less sensitive, that means it's cleaner. And if it's more sensitive, like this, it's, I wouldn't call it dirty, but there's a lot of artifacts going on. What's that? It's noisy. Yes, that's a term. There's more noise when the film gets more sensitive. F-stop, apart from lower number meaning brighter, lower number also means that the focus plane is smaller. So lower number thin. Yeah, that's the term. Thinner focal plane. As you go up, the focal plane becomes bigger. Shutter speed, if you don't control this, if you have a higher number, it is brighter, but you will likely have more blur introduced into your photo. So it's blurry here, and then as you go down the line, so let's add another 3,000. Let's just say, not sure what more values are above here, but this is sharper. Right? So you see how this could really be like uh, there's a lot to take in with the exposure triangle, and this is just the basic formula when you're exposing an image. So you have all of these settings active, you choose, but sometimes you can let the camera choose for you. And actually, one tip would be, when you're getting started with photography, I learned this from my mentor. This is a really good tip. So it's light bulb here. So the tip is you let the camera shoot on auto first, or whatever the green fully automatic mode is available, and then copy the settings from there. So, or check the settings at least. So that way you will know what the balance is for that particular scene that you're trying to shoot. Okay. So I think we don't have time to elaborate further on these, but talking about each of them one at a time will maybe shed some light. This is basically a primer into our next program, which will be Lightroom. And we'll talk more about maybe one of these three or all of them tomorrow. Right? So you don't overload yourselves. I will see you guys again next time. Take care and good night.